Hello, and welcome to Let the Growth Flow, a spiritual place to heal mind, body, and soul. My name is Alexis, and I'll be your host. My hope for this podcast is to help people learn about all things spiritual, at the same time allowing themselves to heal in any way that they need to. I plan to do that by sharing my own spiritual experiences, as well as bringing other spiritual mentors onto the show. Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Let the Growth Flow. We're going to go ahead and jump right in. For today's episode, I am going to be talking about all things mediumship. What is mediumship? How do I get a reading? What do I get out of a reading? And then I also would like to share a story from a medium reading I had last week with the consent of the sitter, of course. And before we get into that, I would love to pull a card for us today. I am using Colette Baron Reed's The Spirit Animal Oracle. So this was one of the first decks I ever bought, and I really like using it for the podcast. Okay, so this is interesting. This is the same exact card that we pulled for the last podcast episode, and it is Wasp Spirit. Sometimes life stings. Apparently, we're all still needing the reminder that life stings sometimes, and just that life is always in balance. So, and there's this polarity that there is dark times and good times, and that oftentimes those dark times lead us to the lighter, happier times in our life. You know, we learn a lot of lessons through the dark times of our life. I'll go ahead and still read the meaning from the book again as well. Are you holding on to anger, jealousy, or resentment because you got stung? Or could you have just stung yourself by comparing yourself to others? There will always be someone else who is more successful, happier, thinner, richer, etc. Jealousy is the false belief that you can't have what you want, or someone could take away something that was supposed to be yours. Let it go and release all those feelings that are making the sting hurt long after the stinger has been removed. Wasp Spirit has woken you up, and now you are called to trust that disappointment can lead you to a different and better path. Align with Spirit now and trust that this too shall pass, and is already doing so, for the pain subsides when you stop telling the story of how much it hurt. So same card, but different message. Last week we pulled it right side up. This time we pulled it upside down. So a little bit of a different message there. And I like it because it's so true. When we are holding on to anger and jealousy and resentment and this pain, it's taking away from us and not from others. So there's a saying, resentment is like drinking poison and hoping the other person is hurt or dies from it. And that's not the case when you're the one drinking the poison. So trying to release any jealousy and anger this week. In the last sentence, it stops hurting so bad when you stop telling the story of how bad it hurt. I needed to hear that one for sure. As you guys all know, what has been going on in my life. It's time for me to release and let go of some anger too. So I hope that resonated for the listeners as well today. And now I want to kind of get in deeper to the nitty-gritty of what a medium reading is. And for me personally, a medium reading is connecting to the energy of the person you're with. It's connecting with their energy, with their soul, with their aura, and being able to listen and read that energy around you. So when I blend energies with my sitter, I can gain information from what's going on in their life currently, what's happened in the past, and what is going to happen in the future. Now, as I've shared on the podcast before also, I don't necessarily always like getting into the future things. I want you guys to imagine yourself in the center and millions of strings going off of you. And this is all of the different choices you have to make every moment of every day, and any of these choices can lead to different outcomes. So really it's about tuning into that energy. And when I tap into that energy, it allows me to connect to all the people you are connected to. So this leads to the people that you're connected to in the living and the afterlife. And this is why most people come to medium readings, is to get into contact with your loved ones. So it's nice because you can contact those loved ones. You can contact your higher self, which is your true self, like the very truest you there is, without any ego or any outside influences, as well as your spirit team and your guardian angels. So I always like to say that a medium reading is going to allow you to gain information about yourself, guidance from your highest self and your loved ones and your spirit team, as well as filling your heart with love and knowing that you're not alone. For these reasons, this is why medium readings are so important to me, and why I love doing them so much, because how beautiful is it that Spirit has chosen me to help relay these messages to individuals. And I know personally how much it means to know we're not alone and to get this confirmation that there is more after death. So in readings, I also use evidence and memories. So this is how you can get confirmation of who we're talking to. So I want you to think of maybe a memory. I don't have you think of it, but this is the evidence I pull through. So the evidence I pull through is character traits, how this person made you feel, as well as shared memories that you would have shared with the person in the afterlife. And sometimes they will even reference memories that they have witnessed in life events they have witnessed in your life after their passing. So this is huge confirmation for you. And we'll kind of go through this evidence period of the medium reading until you can say with 100% certainty, I know this is my great grandpa, George. I know this because he was a tall man with broad shoulders who took no BS, and everybody was kind of scared around him. So we made sure he was happy and there was no messing around him. That's how he made us feel. And a specific memory I had with him was sitting on the porch riding bikes. He would be sitting on the porch watching us ride tricycles. So it's me pulling through this evidence until you can say with 100% certainty, I know who this is. Once we can say, I know who this is when we move into the messages period of the medium reading, which is where even more magic comes through. Because one, it's super magical, super insane and amazing to be able to say, oh my gosh, you're connecting with this person undoubtedly because you just shared a memory that you would have no idea of unless they told you. And then the second part of it is getting into these messages where you're able to know even more so that your loved ones in the afterlife are seeing what's going on in your life and are willing to support you and guide you through it. So this is where I'm going to start sharing the medium reading story from last week, because I think it's going to be able to show you guys more clearly the messages that can come through from loved ones. So this reading was super powerful for me, and I just have to say thank you to the sitter for allowing me to share it on the podcast, because I have never had so many spirits come through in a reading. And it was great confirmation for myself that this is how every reading can be. And just a good reminder for me that this is how powerful medium readings are and can be. So 6 spirits came through for this reading. And the first person that came through for this person was their grandpa. And we had some really insane confirmations for this. So this is the evidence that was being pulled through for this sitter. My friends on YouTube, you're going to see me looking down because I'm referencing notes that I took during the session. So grandpa was coming through and showing me that he was a nasally speaker. Like he would have spoke kind of up in his nose like this, or it would have been a really nasally voice. And was also bringing me to the heart space. And I had said, this feels like somebody who would have passed from a heart attack. And I'm like, but they're also bringing me to my legs. And then once I said this, my sitter got really excited. I could see it in her body language. I could feel it in her energy. She was like, oh my gosh, yes. So also when this happens, the energy raises in the room. I'm in the room the sitter's in if we're meeting via Zoom. So the energy together raises and allows even stronger connections. So once she was excited and was like, oh my gosh, you're already making connections, more information started coming through. So I was like, okay, so grandpa is showing me that he had multiple heart attacks in his life, but there were two main ones that you guys knew about. And he didn't know about the other ones except these main two. The first heart attack he had caused some setbacks, one of them being blood clots in his legs. And then the second heart attack that you guys knew of was the one where he passed. And she was like, oh my gosh, this is so accurate. Like, this is exactly what it is. And grandpa kept taking me back to legs. Like, my whole right leg was tingling. And I said, was his leg amputated? And she was like, oh my gosh, yes. Like, his leg was amputated. He had blood clots from the heart attack, and that's what caused the amputation. So this was really intense, extreme, like fool's proof evidence that this was her grandpa coming through in this reading. So once we could say, all right, we have grandpa, this is when we moved into the messages. And what grandpa was able to do was bring her a lot of confirmation with relationships she had within her family, things that were going on with siblings, with aunts and uncles, and how she was feeling, but was also able to tell her, hey, you know, this is how it is right now. But because you're doing this right now, it is going to be a catalyst for the rest of your family to heal. And know that it's going to take time, but that you are going to get to a good point. So it was really beautiful messages because this sitter was having some friction with her older sister, and grandpa brought that through for me. He was acknowledging your relationship with your sister is tense and stressed right now because of XYZ. And just was able to give her a lot of clarity. Her grandmother then came through also, and when grandmother came through, it was showing me that grandma was with her sister more, and grandpa was more with her right now as her guardian angel. And we had a nice chat about how in the world of spirits are, and our loved ones are with us more during certain times. So I let her know that right now, all the lessons that you're going through right now, grandpa is your go-to guardian angel. And the reasons for that we had discussed in the reading also was because grandpa also acknowledged that in the living life, he was a tad bit sexist and would not have been a supporter of equal rights for women. So my sitter has been working on a lot of self-love, self-confidence, and women empowerment. And grandpa was making that known. And so because of those reasons that grandpa was more sexist in the living life, he was more drawn to helping her through this time period of learning self-love, self-confidence, women empowerment. So grandma was more with sister. And we were able to connect this as well because grandma came through letting me know the experiences that she was going through were very similar to the ones grandma had experienced in her living life. So her sister ended up losing a baby, and grandma did as well in the living life. So this is why grandma was with sister more. So that was more confirmation too, that just we have spirit in the afterworld guiding us and with us at all times. After grandparents came through on mom's side, we had a younger woman come through. And this is an example of sometimes things will come through for family members, not just for you. So I had a younger woman popping in very strongly. She would have passed in her like 30s. And I couldn't move on to my next bit of information until I actually said this out loud. So sometimes it'll feel like I'm getting stuck on information until I'm able to say it. So we weren't able to make the connection, but I told my sitter, you know, this woman is coming through very strongly, and I feel like I just need to tell you this information, write it down, and you might get confirmation on it later. So I gave her the information about the woman, And then we were able to move on. So the next person that came through was her great-grandfather on her dad's side. And when great-grandpa came through, he was able to acknowledge pain and trauma that he created in his living life and that was being passed on through specifically the males in her family. And there was apologizing for it, but there was also this acknowledgement that her and her sister were the first family to not have a boy in the family, and that they were going to break a lot of these cycles in the family lineage. So that was really cool to hear. And again, my sitter has been really working on this for the past year. So it was really such good confirmation for her to hear. And I have to throw this into, this sitter and I did not know each other. She found me on Instagram, and we met the day of the reading. I always think that's good for you guys to know too. So Grandpa was bringing this through, and then there was an uncle that was also brought through. It was her dad's brother. And when dad's brother came through, he was able to give us really amazing messages. He showed us a motorcycle, and that let me know that her dad had a motorcycle, and that he let us know that he was with her father riding the motorcycle all the time. And then there was also a really beautiful message, because what came up for me is that her father and his brother were not very close in the living life, and that her dad was holding a lot of guilt and fear from that. And the uncle came through and said, there's no anger, only love. There's a lot of attention on the fact that this needed to be said to bring some healing, which is ultimately the biggest goal for me in medium readings. That is my intention every time. I want to bring clear, accurate messages that can bring the sitter and their family the most healing. There's a lot of pain and grief and sadness around death, especially when we feel like we had left things unsaid or didn't fix a relationship before a passing. So I'm really blessed to be able to bring that into the readings. So those were the examples that I wanted to share from this reading, show you guys the kind of messages that can come up during this session. At the end of my sessions, I always allow for questions that you maybe want to ask your loved ones in the afterlife, or if you have questions concerning guidance you're looking for now. Again, this is just so that you can leave feeling the most loved, most validation that there's an afterlife. And I just want to thank you guys for listening to more in detail of what a medium reading is and what you can gain from a medium reading. And if this sounded like something that you are looking for and craving right now in your life, please go visit my website, alexis.eastintuitivehealing.com. You can book Reiki sessions, medium readings. My women friends and women identifying friends, you can join my women's new moon circles. And you can listen to the podcast on Spotify and YouTube now as well. Thank you so much for listening. I'm wishing you all happy healing. And until next time, let the growth flow. Bye.